end. So what is there to worry about? Today, even psychiatrists are becoming modern evangelists. They are not urging us to lead religious lives to avoid hellfires in the next world, but they are urging us to lead religious lives to avoid the hellfires of this world, the hellfires of stomach ulcer, angina pectoris, nervous breakdowns, and insanity. As an example of what our psychologists and psychiatrists are teaching, read The Return to Religion, by Dr. Henry C. Link. You will probably find a copy in your public library. Yes, the Christian religion is an inspiring, health-giving activity. Jesus said, "I came that ye might have life and have it more abundantly." Jesus denounced and attacked the dry forms and dead rituals that passed for religion in his day. He was a rebel. He preached a new kind of religion, a religion that threatened to upset the world. That is why he was crucified. He preached that religion should exist for man, not man for religion, that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He talked more about fear than he did about sin. The wrong kind of fear is a sin against your health, a sin against the richer, fuller, happier, courageous life that Jesus advocated. Emerson spoke of himself as a professor of the science of joy. Jesus, too, was a teacher of the science of joy. He commanded his disciples to rejoice and leap for joy.
Jesus declared that there were only two important things about religion: loving God with all our heart, and our neighbor as ourselves. Any man who does that is religious, regardless of whether he knows it. For example, my father-in-law, Henry Price, of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He tries to live by the golden rule, and he is incapable of doing anything mean, selfish, or dishonest. However, he doesn't attend church and regards himself as an agnostic. Nonsense. What makes a man a Christian? I'll let John Bailey answer that. He was probably the most distinguished professor who ever taught theology at the University of Edinburgh. He said, "What makes a man a Christian is neither his intellectual acceptance of certain ideas, nor his conformity to a certain rule, but his possession of a certain spirit and his participation in a certain life."
If that makes a man a Christian, then Henry Price is a noble one. William James, the father of modern psychology, wrote to his friend, Professor Thomas Davidson, saying that as the years went by, he found himself less and less able to get along without God. Earlier in this book I mentioned that when the judges tried to pick the best story on worry sent in by my students, they had so much difficulty in choosing between two outstanding stories that the prize money was split. Here is the second story that tied for first prize: the unforgettable experience of a woman who had to find out the hard way that she couldn't get along without God.
I am calling this woman Mary Cushman, although that is not her actual name. She has children and grandchildren who might be embarrassed to see her story in print, so I agreed to disguise her identity. However, the woman herself is real, very real. A few months ago, she sat in the armchair beside my desk and told me her story. Here is how it goes. During the Depression, she said, my husband's average salary was $18 a week. Many times we didn't have even that because he didn't get paid when he was ill, and that was often. He had a series of minor accidents. He also had mumps, scarlet fever, and repeated attacks of flu. We lost the little house that we had built with our own hands. We owed $50 at the grocery store and had 5 children to feed. I took in washing and ironing from the neighbors, and bought second-hand clothes from the Salvation Army store and made them over for my children to wear. I made myself ill with worry. One day the grocer to whom we owed $50 accused my 11-year-old boy of stealing a couple of pencils.
My son wept as he told me about it. I knew he was honest and sensitive, and I knew that he had been disgraced and humiliated in front of other people. That was the straw that broke my back. I thought of all the misery we had endured, and I couldn't see any hope for the future. I must have become temporarily insane with worry, for I shut off my washing machine, took my little 5-year-old daughter into the bedroom, and plugged up the windows and cracks with paper and rags. My little girl said to me, "Mommy, what are you doing?" And I answered, "There's a little draft in here." Then I turned on the gas heater we had in the bedroom and didn't light it. As I lay down on the bed with my daughter beside me, she said, "Mommy, This is funny, we just got up a little while ago. But I said, never mind, we'll take a little nap.
Then I closed my eyes, listening to the gas escape from the heater. I shall never forget the smell of that gas. Suddenly I thought I heard music. I listened. I had forgotten to turn the radio off in the kitchen. It didn't matter now. But the music kept on, and presently I heard someone singing an old hymn. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit, oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. As I listened to that hymn, I realized that I had made a tragic mistake. I had tried to fight all my terrible battles alone. I had not taken everything to God in prayer. I jumped up, turned off the gas, opened the door, and raised the windows.
I wept and prayed all the rest of that day. Only I didn't pray for help. Instead, I poured out my soul in thanksgiving to God for the blessings He had given me, 5 splendid children, all of them healthy and fine, strong in body and mind. I promised God that never again would I prove so ungrateful. And I have kept that promise. Even after we lost our home, and had to move into a little country schoolhouse that we rented for $5 a month, I thanked God for that schoolhouse. I thanked Him for the fact that I at least had a roof to keep us warm and dry. I thanked God honestly that things were not worse, and I believe that He heard me. For in time things improved, oh, not overnight, but as the depression lightened, we made a little more money. I got a job as a hat check girl in a large country club, and sold stockings as a sideline. To help put himself through college, one of my sons got a job on a farm, milked 13 cows morning and night. Today my children are grown up and married. I have 3 fine grandchildren. And, as I look back on that terrible day when I turned on the gas, I thank God over and over that I woke up in time. What joys I would have missed if I had carried out that act. How many wonderful years I would have forfeited forever. Whenever I hear now of someone who wants to end his life, I feel like crying out, don't do it. Don't. The blackest moments we live through can only last a little time, and then comes the future.
On the average, someone commits suicide in the United States every 35 minutes. On the average, someone goes insane every 120 seconds. Most of these suicides and probably many of the tragedies of insanity could have been prevented if these people had only had the solace and peace that are found in religion and prayer. One of the most distinguished psychiatrists living, Dr. Carl Jung, says in his book Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, During the past 30 years, people from all the civilized countries of the earth have consulted me. I have treated many hundreds of patients. Among all my patients in the second half of life, that is to say, over 35, there has not been one whose problem in the last resort was not that of finding a religious outlook on life. It is safe to say that every one of them fell ill because he had lost that which the living religions of every age have given to their followers, and none of them has been really healed who did not regain his religious outlook.
That statement is so significant I want to repeat it in bold type. Dr. Carl Jung said, "During the past 30 years, people from all the civilized countries of the earth have consulted me. I have treated many hundreds of patients. Among all my patients in the second half of high, that is to say, over 35, there has not been one whose problem in the last resort was not that of finding a religious outlook on life. It is safe to say that every one of them fell ill because he had lost that which the living religions of every age have given to their followers, and none of them has been really healed who did not regain his religious outlook." William James said approximately the same thing. "Faith is one of the forces by which men live," he declared, "and the total absence of it means collapse."
The late Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest Indian leader since Buddha, would have collapsed if he had not been inspired by the sustaining power of prayer. How do I know? Because Gandhi himself said so. Without prayer, he wrote, I should have been a lunatic long ago. Thousands of people could give similar testimony. My own father, well, as I have already said, my own father would have drowned himself had it not been for my mother's prayers and faith. Probably thousands of the tortured souls who are now screaming in our insane asylums could have been saved if they had only turned to a higher power for help instead of trying to fight life's battles alone. When we are harassed and reach the limit of our own strength, many of us then turn in desperation to God. There are no atheists in foxholes. But why wait till we are desperate? Why not renew our strength every day? Why wait even until Sunday? For years I have had the habit of dropping into empty churches on weekday afternoons. When I feel that I am too rushed and hurried to spare a few minutes to think about spiritual things, I say to myself, wait a minute, Dale Carnegie, wait a minute. Why all the feverish hurry and rush, little man? You need to pause and acquire a little perspective. At such times, I frequently drop into the first church that I find open. Although I am a Protestant, I frequently, on weekday afternoons, drop into St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue, and remind myself that I'll be dead in another 30 years, but that the great spiritual truths that all churches teach are eternal. I close my eyes and pray. I find that doing this calms my nerves, rests my body, clarifies my perspective, and helps me revalue my values. May I recommend this practice to you?